Hi everyone, it's been a while. This video is a little bit different because this time I'm participating in my very first fishing tournament, more specifically the Catfish Bash that's being hosted at Clear Lake. About 21 teams have entered this tournament, and my team is simply called Catfish Posse Number 2. But of course, I won't be fishing alone. I'm joined by Captain Steve, who's a tournament veteran and of course the king of Clear Lake. We are also joined by Ian Barnes, who is a kayak fishing pro and a rising star in the Clear Lake fishing community. And of course, you have me, the other Ian, who is a novice fisherman and of course, still an amateur fishing content creator. All teams can start fishing at noon, and pretty much the objective is we have about 8 hours to fish for as many catfish as we can. However, before we bring them back to the weigh-in, which is about 8 o'clock p.m., we have to choose our top 3 heaviest catfish. And of course, if your 3 catfish are the heaviest of the bunch, you win. Now, usually during these trips, I like to show off the catfish in front of the camera, take a leisure time, but that can't be happening this time around because we have to be completely focused. Because this is my very first fishing tournament, I really want to make sure that I don't let Ian or Steve down in any way, shape, or form. So in this case, I'm going to do everything that Steve tells me, which includes bait the rods, cast and watch the rods, and whatever else Captain Steve has to tell me to do. And of course, on top of this pressure, the catfish at Clear Lake, at least the place we were fishing at, are in complete spawn mode, meaning they're not feeding as aggressively and they're more focused on protecting their young. Now, I did have a second camera on me, which I was hoping to use to record before and after the tournament. However, for reasons I cannot explain, the camera did not record diddly squat, which would prove to be completely useless. So the only thing I have to say though is like, sorry in advance if I did not get those good money shot moments before and towards the end of the tournament. That's just how life is. Before the tournament started, we all gathered together for the national anthem. Once that was done and our number was called up, we zoomed off to our fishing spot where it was pretty much like Fast and Furious as far as like who can get to the spot first, and we started fishing.
However, after an hour, we didn't get any bites or any action whatsoever. In fact, many of the boats that followed us to the spot were not so lucky either. In fact, a lot of them dipped out after 30 minutes of nothing. However, we stood our ground and we continued to troll in the same area, and eventually our patience paid off.
Fish on!
With the skunk now off the boat, we basically recasted our lines and trolled in the same area, and the action became more consistent, especially when Ian was texting his wife.
Fish on!
When it comes to fishing for catfish in the spawn, it's all about bait presentation, especially when you're putting in that bait in front of the catfish hole, enticing them to attack.
Fish on!
Ian was able to pull up a nice female, and of course, a double hookup was about to come up.
Fish on!
With more than 3 fish in the boat, we were able to be a bit more selective on which fish we were going to keep.
Fish on!
And even though we were all focused and paying attention, I have to say, if it wasn't for Ian texting his wife, we would not have gotten as many bites as we did. So shout out to Ian's wife. Thanks for the good luck. This catfish was a little too small, so we just decided to let it go.
Fish on. Fish on.
When I started reeling down on this fish, I could tell that this was going to be a good one, potentially in the 20-pound range. It became clear this was definitely a catfish we were going to keep for weigh-in.
Fish on.
Even though the small male put up definitely a big fight, it definitely didn't have the weight that we needed.
Fish on.
This is probably the only time that Steve himself reeled in a catfish during this entire tournament, and the rule on the boat was if anyone touched the rod when there's a fish on, you gotta reel it in. With the afternoon winds picking up, it became a little harder to weigh the fishes properly, and we had to take a bit of a gamble on which fishes we were going to keep and which we were going to let go. Because in any fishing tournament, every ounce counts. And obviously in this case, we were letting this one go.
Fish on. Fish on.
Yeah. Winds picked up a bit, but we're hanging it together. As Steve said, it's the fourth quarter.
Fish on.
Despite the winds picking up and other boats slowly leaving the area, we remained in our spot. In fact, we stayed at the same spot that we started with for the entire tournament.
Fish on. Fish on. Fish on.
Hi everyone. I apologize for the seemingly dramatic ending. Basically, as you could probably tell, we got ourselves a double hookup. We were able to get those fish in. And pretty much after that clip, I decided to put the GoPro camera away. And as I said before, I thought that second camera I had on me was recording, and it wasn't, which is annoying, but you know, that's just how it is. So as far as like recap how things kind of wrapped up, it was pretty simple. Firstly, tournament weigh-in was at 8 o'clock. And if you are even a minute late, you're disqualified. It was about 7:30. We reeled in one of our last fishes. We were ready to go back to the dock, and the engine wouldn't start. And as you can imagine, the amount of stress was so astronomically impossible to describe. It was just really bad. 10 to 15 minutes as Steve was trying to work the engine. Miraculously, it came back on. And as Steve said, just almost like Indiana Jones, we hauled it to the docking area. We actually made it back with 2 minutes to spare. 2 minutes. Now, as far as we got there, our final count for our fishes was about 58 pounds. Now remember, it was a very tough bite. Catfish are in complete spawn mode, and a lot of other boats maybe got 4 bites the entire day. In fact, 5 teams didn't get anything, and they just left. They didn't even come to the weigh-in. As far as like the total, did we win? Did we lose? We won with 58 pounds. And just as proof, here's the trophy. Look at that. Looks so cool. And the first thing I want to say, though, is I just want to say and take the time to say thank you to both Steve and Ian for not only like letting me keep the trophy, but more importantly, allowing me the opportunity to participate in this tournament. I never thought in a million years I would ever fish a tournament, let alone win. Now, this is the part where I go on to explain like, oh, what's next? When's the next Catfish Bash? Whatever. And this is where the unfortunate things start to come in. Now, just to clarify, even before the tournament started, there was quite a bit of beef with other anglers towards Ian and Steve. And I'm not going to go into too much detail because it's not really my business to explain. But the only thing I will say simply is that it felt like being in high school again, where one person wronged the other and they have such a hell-bent grudge against that person. And I will say right now, when we came back on the dock with 2 minutes to spare and won first place, there wasn't a lot of people that excited for us. Of course, there were definitely a good amount of people who were happy, congratulated us, but there were definitely a lot of people who were quite salty. And as the saga goes, once we received our prize, the cash prize, whatever, it was brought to Steve's attention that he was apparently too close to some of the other boats. Steve got a warning that if he were to do that in any way, shape, or form, he would be banned from participating in any future fishing tournament. And usually, when you get a warning, that's usually the end of it, unless there was supposed to be an immediate consequence afterwards. And of course, along that same conversation, like that same time frame, Ian was approached to start a kayaking fishing tournament segment that would be, a separate division, which sounds awesome. However, he was told he would have to leave our team in order to spearhead the tournament. So you have all this kind of going on, and as you can imagine, it definitely felt and left a bit of a sour note with the victory. And then, of course, 2 days later, Steve got notified that he, after consideration of something, of whatever, or just other people complaining about Steve winning, Steve was banned from participating in any future tournaments. And obviously that really sucks because, you know, I had a lot of fun fishing with Steve in a tournament. Now, as far as that goes, am I going to do any future tournaments? No, not at the moment. I mean, the one thing I'll say though is that myself and the other Ian Green, even though we weren't banned, we decided to just, you know, not participate in any more future Bash tournaments unless they somehow rectify things with Steve, but I doubt it. Now, as far as that goes, at the end of the day, I value my friendship with Steve and Ian way more than any tournament. But you never know what might happen further down the line. I would love to fish with Steve and Ian in some tournament fashion, again, if the opportunity arose. Now, as far as that goes, are we impacted negatively? No, because the way I see it, we kind of made our mark. We won first place. Myself and Ian never fished in a tournament in any capacity, and we won. And you know what? I still feel pretty good about that. And of course, Steve is not hurting in any way, shape, or form. In fact, if anything, he's going back doing what he does best by taking clients out and putting them on the fish that Clear Lake has to offer. So that's pretty much it. And the only thing I'll say, though, is that I appreciate people tuning in, watching this whole thing. And I apologize once again for, you know, lack of videos in May. This tournament was definitely something I've had a lot of like excitement and apprehension towards. But I'm kind of glad it's gotten over with. Now I can kind of go back to doing what I do best. And I have a lot of fun plans for the summer as well. The only thing I'll say, though, is thanks again for watching, and I hope to see you guys soon. Bye.